7-year-old Chloe Lewis has never seen the world outside the walls of the house. She has always wanted to see the real world, but for some reason her father Henry forbids her to leave the house, scaring her with stories of villains. Their days are filled with a strange, oppressive routine, canned food for dinner, survival lessons, and constant warnings if they are attacked. Chloe has always thought her father is strange, for he stays up at night to protect her from something. One night she hears a noise coming from the closet. Gathering all her courage, she opens it. There stands a woman in chains. Her face is horrible and her gaze is piercing like a predator's. Chloe screams, and the woman disappears. Henry comes running to the noise and tries to calm her down. The next morning, the silence of the house is broken by the ringing of a bell. An ice cream truck pulls up to their house. Chloe, leaning against the window, watches as Harper, the neighbor girl, buys ice cream. Harper notices her and decides to buy 2 ice creams. Chloe is excited and opens the door. But at that moment, her father appears and yells at her. He is angry that his daughter disobeyed him. He locks her in the closet, as if trying to keep her from even the very desire to break out. As the night passes, Henry changes from anger to remorse. In the morning, he goes to get ice cream for Chloe. But he comes home not with ice cream, but with wounds. And then the unbelievable happens. The house shakes like a hurricane. An invisible field emanates from it, which seems to be sucked back into Henry's body. Chloe freezes in horror, but now the truth is too blatant to ignore. It turns out their home was hidden in a time capsule created by Henry. 7 years for Chloe was just 3 months in the outside world. In that bubble, they were safe from whatever was hunting them from the outside world. But Henry can no longer maintain the barrier. Her father's powers are dwindling, and Chloe has to decide: stay in the crumbling defenses or take a chance and step out into a world she's never seen. Chloe decides to take the risk and picks up a crumpled $100 bill. The world dazzles her: bright colors, cool breeze, sounds of the city. Every step seems like an incredible feat. She heads toward the ice cream truck. The van driver, Alan, smiles good-naturedly at her and offers her an ice cream cone. His attention to her is strange, almost obsessive. The man offers her a seat in the car and says he wants to show her around the city. Chloe agrees, determined not to miss such a moment. The van rolls through the streets, and for the first time in her life Chloe sees the world around her: lush parks, glittering storefronts and a disturbing billboard. It depicts people with bloodshot eyes and reads, "They are among us. Report any anomalies." Her heart clenches as she remembers how her father's eyes sometimes bled. In the park, Alan wonders if anything strange ever happened to her when she was angry or afraid. Then he mentions her mother. But the conversation is interrupted by a police officer watching them suspiciously. The officer suspects that Alan is insane and asks him to leave. Alan then turns to Chloe and says quietly, "He's one of the men who killed your mother." She yells at the officer, ordering him to leave. But then something strange happens. Chloe's eyes begin to fill with blood, and the officer, as if in a trance, lowers his weapon and walks away from them. That same night, returning home, Chloe again faces the woman in chains. Now she recognizes her from photographs. It is her mother. Later she learns from the news that such people are called freaks. They are people with abnormal abilities who are hunted down and used for their own purposes by the government. Chloe's mother was one of them. The next morning, Chloe realizes that her mother is contacting her through her mind, using her power. It's not just an accident, it's a call. Chloe tells her father that she has met her mother, but Henry refuses to believe it. To get free again, Chloe slips her father sleeping pills in the water. But he understands her plan. As a young child, she doesn't fully realize her power. She tells her father to sleep, and he falls helplessly to the floor. Blood drips from her eyes again. Chloe meets with Alan, who reveals his plan to her. At the diner, they meet Agent Ray, a government employee who can lead them to a freak camp on Mount Maddock. Alan, hiding the fact that Chloe is a freak, enters into negotiations. But the situation spirals out of control, and Chloe runs out into the kitchen of the diner. Alan creates a distraction by blinding the diner employee and sending him outside. Gunshots ring out in the diner. The agents mistake him for a weirdo and open fire. In the chaos, Alan grabs Chloe and she uses her power to become invisible. In the truck, Chloe hears a revelation for the first time. Her mother is alive, and Alan tries to find a way to the mountain where she is being held captive. On the way back, Henry appears in front of the truck. His eyes are full of determination. Chloe runs out to meet him, but, losing her balance, almost gets hit by the truck. Henry, having activated the force field, saves her at the last moment. Henry has only one option left for his daughter's good, and he takes Chloe to the Reeds to fulfill his long-standing deal. The Reed family agrees at first, but Nancy quickly realizes that Chloe is the kind of weirdo who is afraid of everything. They refuse and are forced to return home. Henry notices that Chloe's eyes are bloodshot. He realizes with horror that their daughter is also a freak. Frightened by her strength, he locks his daughter in a closet, despite her screams and pleas. But this only makes matters worse. Chloe meets her mother again, and this time the vision is even more vivid. Mary, emaciated, is chained to a metal bed. When Chloe tells Henry that they have an obligation to save her mother, he refuses, believing it to be a suicide mission. This enrages her and she loses control of her mind. She uses her power to subdue her father's mind and nearly kills him. But at the last moment, she stops herself. Chloe senses that they are in new danger and sees Nancy talking to a police officer. It seems she has reported them to the police. She puts a knife in Nancy's eye, whereupon the policeman shoots himself. This causes panic among the other agents who start shooting at Nancy, believing her to be insane. Chloe then uses her power to show her father that her mother Mary is alive. He realizes how powerful her daughter is. Chloe takes control of the military man's mind and forces him to free Mary. At that moment, Agent Ray comes knocking on their house. Henry immediately asks his daughter to be careful and lets her into the house. He tries to pass himself off as an ordinary man, but Ray knows exactly who they are. She takes a gun and shoots Henry. The man manages to create his field, but he is exhausted. From the wound he received, he falls to the ground. He was held by the government. Ray, having neutralized Henry, starts looking for Chloe. She finds her and shoots her without a second thought. The bullet meant for Chloe hits Alan, who falls dead. Chloe, seized by rage and despair, forces Agent Ray to shoot himself. The enemies are already on the doorstep. To buy time, Henry pretends to hold Agent Ray hostage. By creating a force field around the house, he neutralizes the three officers, but his strength is running out. Chloe, exhausted from using her powers, loses consciousness and faints. Meanwhile, Mary finds herself trapped before the final exit. The officers are getting closer and she desperately calls out for Chloe. Chloe, hearing her mother scream even while unconscious, wakes up, gripped by rage and determination. She screams, unleashing all her power, and takes hold of the minds of all the officers within a radius of Mount Maddock. Mary breaks free and thanks her daughters. Finally free, she soars into the sky, but their fight is not over. At this time, a missile is aimed at the house. The government decides to destroy them along with the house. Henry gathers all his strength and slows down the missile's flight. He carries a fainted Chloe outside, but his strength is running out and the missile reaches its target. The house is blown to pieces, flames engulfing everything around. When Chloe regains consciousness, she sees a weakened Henry, who looks at her lovingly. Chloe sobs as she clutches his hand and gunshots ring out all around. At the last moment, the shots stop and Mary appears in front of her. She covers Chloe with her body as if protecting her from the world. Chloe raises her head, her eyes blazing with confidence. She wraps her arms around Chloe and together they take to the sky, leaving behind ash and destruction. If you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe and like the channel. See you soon.